I was 17 when I had my first real encounter with something. I still can't explain. It happened near Window Rock, Arizona, right on the edge of Navajo Nation land, where my grandparents used to live. My cousin Daniel and I were spending the weekend camping near the cliffs, thinking we'd reconnect with nature and enjoy some stargazing. We brought snacks, a tent, and enough ghost stories to creep each other out. But none of those stories compared to what actually happened that night. It started like any ordinary evening. We set up camp just before sunset, right on a flat patch near a dry creek bed. The air was crisp. Coyotes howled in the distance, and the stars were so clear it felt like we could reach out and touch them. We roasted marshmallows over a small fire, talked about school, and tried to remember some Navajo legends our grandmother used to tell us. Around 11:30 p.m., the wind picked up. It was strange how fast it got cold. One minute we were sweating from the fire, and the next we were shivering even with jackets on. I blamed the desert air, but Daniel looked uneasy. He kept glancing behind him toward the tree. "You hear that?" he asked. I paused. At first, I didn't hear anything, but after a few seconds, I picked up on it too. A faint, low whistling sound. It was coming from the trees. Not a bird, not the wind. It was too deliberate. A slow, drawn-out whistle, as if someone was mimicking a tune with no rhythm. We turned off our flashlights and crouched by the fire. I whispered, "Maybe someone else is camping nearby?" Daniel didn't answer. He just stared into the dark, his face pale. "Don't whistle back," he said. I chuckled. "Why would I?" He didn't laugh. "Grandma said never to whistle at night. It invites them." I remembered that. Our grandmother was superstitious. Stories about skinwalkers, spirits, creatures that could wear the skins of animals and humans. As kids, we thought it was nonsense. That night, I wished we hadn't laughed at her stories. The whistling grew louder, still slow, still steady, but now it was joined by something else. Footsteps. Light, crunching steps on dry leaves. Coming closer. I stood up and aimed my flashlight toward the sound. The beam cut through the dark, and for a moment, I thought I saw something move, a tall, thin figure just behind a tree. I blinked, and it was gone. Daniel grabbed my wrist. "Get inside the tent. Don't speak." We climbed inside and zipped it shut. The fire crackled outside, casting flickering shadows against the nylon walls. I could still hear the whistling. It circled the campsite slowly, never stopping, never speeding up. Like it knew we were listening. We stayed silent. Every breath felt heavy. I wanted to peek outside to see who or what it was, but I couldn't move. My body felt frozen. Daniel was praying under his breath in Navajo. I didn't understand the words, but I knew the fear behind them. Then the footsteps stopped, right outside our tent. No whistle now, just silence. I held my breath. Then I heard it. A voice, mimicking my own. "Daniel, open up. It's me. I just want to get more firewood." But I never said that. The voice was mine, same tone, same rhythm, but hollow, wrong, like someone had recorded it and was playing it. Back through a broken speaker, Daniel whispered, "Don't move. Don't say anything." The voice repeated itself, louder this time. "Still me. Open up. It's me." Then laughter, low, guttural, like an animal trying to sound human. Suddenly, the tent shook violently. Something slammed against the side. I screamed, and Daniel clamped a hand over my mouth. Then, silence again. No wind. No footsteps. No whistling. We waited, not daring to breathe. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Eventually, the sun began to rise. The moment the first light touched the tent, Daniel unzipped it and jumped out. I followed, expecting chaos, destroyed campsite, footprints, something. But everything was exactly how we left it. The fire had burned out, our backpacks untouched, the trees silent. Except for one thing. Right where the footsteps had stopped, just outside the tent, were bare human footprints in the dirt, long, narrow, with claw-like impressions instead of toes. They circled the tent once, then disappeared into the brush. We packed up in silence and hiked back to the car without a word. Back at home, Daniel spoke to our grandmother. She made him burn sage and spread ash around the house. I stayed the night, afraid to be alone. When I finally fell asleep, I dreamed of that whistling, closer and louder than before. Weeks passed. I tried to forget, rationalize, tell myself it was some deranged person messing with us. But then something else happened. My phone buzzed one night at 2:14 a.m. A voicemail. When I listened, it was just whistling, slow, steady. And at the end, my voice saying, "Open up. It's me." I never recorded that. In the summer of 2022, my best friend Ethan and I took a road trip through the Southwest. We were both in that weird phase after college where life hadn't really started, but everything still felt wide open. We wanted one last adventure before corporate jobs and mortgages tied us down. The plan was simple. Hit the scenic spots, Zion, Monument Valley, Horseshoe Bend, and camp along the way. Ethan was the photographer. I was the driver. We packed a couple of tents, a cooler full of snacks, and enough gas station playlists to fuel 1,000 miles of bad singing. We reached Monument Valley just before dusk. The sandstone buttes looked like giants asleep under a blood-red sky. The Navajo land stretched out endlessly around us, and the nearest town was miles back. We pulled over at a flat clearing just off a dirt road. No campsites, no lights, no signs of people, just the way we wanted it. We set up the tents, made sandwiches, and took a few long exposure shots of the stars. Ethan was in heaven. He kept saying the photos looked otherworldly. He wasn't wrong. There was something different about the sky there. Too many stars. Too much silence. By 11 p.m., we turned in. I fell asleep to the sound of crickets and wind brushing through the sparse shrubs. But I woke up maybe 2 hours later to a different sound. Entirely shuffling footsteps outside my tent. I froze. Ethan, I waited. No flashlight. No voice. Just slow, dragging footsteps circling the tents. I unzipped my bag and grabbed the flashlight, but I didn't turn it on. I didn't want to draw attention. I stayed perfectly still, breathing shallow, heart pounding so hard it drowned out the footsteps. Then, the sound stopped, right next to my tent wall. And then whistling, a slow, broken tune, like someone mimicking a song they didn't quite remember. Every note off, every pause too long. It made my skin crawl. I whispered, "Ethan." No answer, just more whistling. Then a voice, low, raspy, too deep to be human. "You shouldn't be here." I flinched. That voice wasn't Ethan's. It wasn't anyone I knew. It sounded ancient, like the wind had learned to speak. The tent fabric shifted as if someone ran a hand down it, slowly. I finally flicked on the flashlight and shouted, "Get the hell out of here." Silence. I scrambled out of the tent, light aimed forward. but no one was there. Nothing but shrubs and dust. Ethan's tent was zipped up. I rushed over and unzipped it. He was still inside, asleep. I shook him awake. "Dude, someone's out there." He blinked. "What? Who?" I explained. "The footsteps. The voice. The whistling." He frowned. "I didn't hear anything." That freaked me out more than the noise itself. We stayed up the rest of the night, backs to the fire, flashlights in hand. Nothing came back. But the next morning, we found prints all around the tents. Not boot prints. Bare feet. Long, thin, with claw-like toes. Ethan took photos. He wanted to joke about it. Maybe it's Bigfoot with a nail salon habit. I wasn't laughing. We packed up fast and decided to head east toward Colorado. But something felt wrong. Like we weren't alone. Like whatever had come near the tent hadn't left. That night, we got a cheap motel in a small town on the border of the reservation. I double-locked the door and left the TV on for background noise. Ethan stayed up editing photos while I tried to sleep. Around 3 a.m., he shook me. "Dude, look at this." He showed me a photo he took at the campsite, one he hadn't checked earlier. It was a wide shot of the buttes with stars overhead. But in the left corner, partly hidden behind a bush, was a tall, thin figure. Humanoid, but wrong. Its legs were bent backwards. Its arms reached down past its knees. And its eyes, glowing, reflective, like an animal caught in headlights. "I didn't see that when I took the picture," Ethan whispered. We sat there in silence for a long time. I didn't sleep that night. I barely blinked. I watched the window like a man expecting war. Around 4:30 a.m., the motel TV flickered to static. The lights buzzed. Then I heard it, the same whistle, soft and slow, right outside our window. I pulled the curtain back. Nothing. Just empty parking lot lit by a flickering street lamp. Then, a voice from outside. Ethan's voice. "Hey man, come out here. I found something." But Ethan was behind me. I turned around and he looked terrified. "That's not me," he whispered. He grabbed the Bible from the motel drawer and started praying. I'd never seen him so scared. We heard scratching at the door. Then silence. No footsteps. No whistling. Just the slow, dragging sound of claws against metal. We waited until sunrise before we dared move. The front door had long, deep scratch marks carved into it. 3 parallel lines. As if something with talons had tried to get in. We left town immediately. For the next week, Ethan and I kept seeing signs. A bird flying directly into our windshield. Strange knocks on motel walls at exactly 3 a.m. One night, Ethan found clumps of coarse black hair under his pillow. No explanation. We eventually made it home to Ohio, but we were different people. Ethan never posted those photos. He deleted them all, even the one with the figure. Said he didn't want it following us any more than it already had. As for me, I still hear the whistling sometimes. Mostly in my dreams, but once, just once, it came from my backyard. In the dark, around 3 a.m. I looked outside. Nothing was there, but I didn't sleep that night, and I never camped again. In October 2021, I took a solo road trip across Arizona for some soul-searching after a rough breakup and a job. I quit without notice. I wasn't exactly in the best mental state, but I thought some time alone under the desert sky would help me find clarity. I stopped at a small roadside inn near Cameron Trading Post. a quiet spot just off Highway 89. The place was charming in an Old West kind of way, with dusty floors, creaky beds, and Navajo art hanging on every wall. The woman at the front desk looked at me strangely when I told her I'd be hiking into the desert alone. She didn't say much, but I caught her glance shift to a small bundle of sage, an ash sitting beside the counter. "You'll want that," she said, pushing it toward me. I laughed awkwardly. "For good luck." She didn't laugh back. "For protection." I took it, unsure whether to be grateful or concerned. That evening, I parked a few miles down a dirt trail and walked into the open land behind the post. The horizon glowed red, the mesas casting long shadows across the sand. I found a small ridge, set up my blanket, and watched the stars come alive. It was the most peace I'd felt in months. Until it wasn't. Just after midnight, the wind shifted. It wasn't strong, but it carried something with it. A smell. Rotten. Like roadkill that had been left out too long. The kind of scent that makes your stomach turn instantly. Then the air got heavy. Thick. Like the atmosphere itself was pressing down on me. I sat up and scanned the darkness. I saw nothing, but I felt something. Eyes. Watching me. I stood, flashlight in hand, and swept it across the desert brush. The beam flickered, then steadied, and that's when I saw it. A figure. Tall. Thin. Wrong. It stood about 30 feet away. Perfectly still. No movement. Its body looked like a stretched shadow, jet black, but somehow darker than the night around it. I aimed the flashlight straight at it, and the beam seemed to bend around it, as if the light didn't want to touch it. I called out, "Hey, you okay?" No answer. It didn't move, just watched. I took a step back, then another. The figure tilted its head slightly, like a curious animal trying to understand me. That's when I noticed something chilling. It had no face, just smooth, dark skin where eyes and a mouth should be. Then it whistled. Soft, distant, mimicking a tune I didn't recognize. It was uneven, broken, like it was trying to remember how to be human. My chest tightened. I turned and ran, not toward my car, but toward the inn. I didn't care about the distance. I ran until my legs burned and my lungs begged for air. But the whistling never faded. It followed. No footsteps, just that sound. When I finally reached the back fence of the inn's property, I dared to glance over my shoulder. The figure was standing at the edge of the ridge, exactly where I had been sitting. Still, watching. I stumbled inside and went straight to my room. Locked the door. Pulled the shades. I grabbed the bundle of sage the old woman had given me and lit it with shaking hands. Smoke filled the room, and for a while, everything was quiet. Then, around 2:17 a.m., I heard a tap at the window. Not a knock. A tap. Soft. Deliberate. Rhythmic. 3 times. I held my breath. Didn't move. Then it came again. I crawled to the corner, too scared to look. But I had to. I slowly pulled the curtain back. Nothing. The window faced a wooden wall of the adjacent building. No walkway. No room to stand. Just 10 feet of drop below. Impossible for someone to be there. But on the glass, there were handprints. Long, thin, with elongated fingers and claw marks. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went to the front desk and told the woman everything. She didn't seem surprised. "You were marked," she said. "What does that mean?" She sighed. "It means it saw you. It knows you now. They don't always leave." She handed me a small pouch filled with herbs and stones. "Keep this on you. Don't travel alone at night. Don't whistle. and never, ever speak to it, no matter what voice it uses. I left Arizona that day and drove straight back to Oregon without stopping more than once. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my apartment, trying to convince myself that what happened was just a dream. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Voicemail. I pressed play. It was a recording of me, calling out, "Hey, you okay?" Then whistling. Then silence. I never said those words into my phone. I deleted the voicemail, but the next day it was back. And the next, I stopped answering unknown numbers. Started keeping the pouch the woman gave me under my pillow. Sometimes, late at night, I wake up to that same smell, rotting meat and dust. And I know it's near. It doesn't always show itself, but it watches, waits, and every once in a while, when everything's still and my world feels too quiet, I hear it, whistling, trying to remember how to sound human.